If your vocabulary increases, you're going to do better in IELTS reading, listening, writing, and speaking. So in today's lesson, we'll be learning from 3 famous authors on how to learn vocabulary quickly and effectively. The linguist and cognitive scientist Stephen Krashen said that language learners acquire language best when they're exposed to input that is slightly more advanced than their current level, but still understandable. Okay, let's break this down. Krashen is saying that we need to increase our input of the language, so we should read books and articles, listen to podcasts, learn from conversations, but it's important that the level is only slightly higher than the level that we already have. We need to be able to understand it. For example, if you've just started learning English, reading the news every day is going to be too difficult and you won't learn a lot of new vocabulary. It'll just be overwhelming. Instead, it's important to find material that is just slightly more advanced than your current level of English. So what can we do to learn more vocabulary for the IELTS test? Here are 3 things. Number 1, watch IELTS model answers. These model answers have been designed to be understood by IELTS students like you. Listen to the answers and focus on what is being said, not necessarily how it is being said. Trust that over time you'll be absorbing the vocabulary that you need. Number 2, read model essays. At the bottom of each lesson in the vocabulary course, you'll find some model essays on the topic of that lesson. Read these model essays and see if you agree with the ideas. Don't try to understand every word, just try to understand the general idea. Read these essays regularly and it will help you to build your vocabulary for the IELTS writing test. Watch top students doing IELTS mock tests. Try to find videos on YouTube with subtitles and with people that you're interested in listening to. Remember, the aim is to understand their answers, not necessarily to copy the language they use. Now, in 1990, a linguist called Richard Schmidt said it's not enough just to have lots of input. We need to pay attention to the language and begin to notice it. This became known as the noticing hypothesis. Now, have you ever had the experience learning English or any other language that you're taught a new word and then suddenly you see it everywhere? You see it in songs, in books, in series. This is exactly what Schmidt is talking about. When we start to notice things, we're much more likely to learn them. So how can we apply this theory to our IELTS preparation? Number 1, keep a vocabulary book. Each time that you hear a new word or phrase that you like, just write it down with a translation in your own language. Try to keep a page for each day and then review the words at night at the end of each day. What will start to happen is you'll start to have some of the same words appear again and again, and that's going to help you to notice the language. Also, if there are any words or phrases that you especially like, then just highlight them and again review these highlighted words regularly. By the way, it's important that you make this manageable for yourself. Don't just try to write down every single new word that you see. Focus on maybe 5 to 10 words per day. So for example, in my speaking test with Roy, he used a phrase that I think is really good. He said, "I'm afraid my student days are behind me." Do you work or are you a student?
No, I'm afraid my student days are behind me.
Okay, so we can take a phrase like, "I'm afraid my ... days are behind me," and write it in our vocabulary book. And then what we can do is to try and use it when we're doing our practice speaking. Number 2 is to use AI to help you. So we can use AI to get example sentences. So for example, if we go to ChatGPT, we can ask it to please give us 10 example sentences with the phrase, "I'm afraid my ... days are behind me." And here we go. You can read these sentences and translate them into your own language. Number 3, notice vocabulary in IELTS model answers. In my vocabulary course, you'll find words and phrases to learn on different topics. And then at the bottom of the lesson, you'll get extra practice like model answers or model essays. You can watch the answers or read the model essays and then see which words and phrases you notice. The last theory that we're going to look at is the principle of retrieval. Adam Baddeley wrote in 1997, "The act of successfully recalling an item increases the chance that the item will be remembered. It appears that the retrieval route to the item is in some way strengthened by being successfully used." Okay, so what does this mean? Well, it means that when we successfully recall a word or phrase that we're trying to remember, we're more likely to be able to recall it again in the future. This is why some people like to learn from flashcards, quizzes, or through different memory games. So how can we use this theory to help us in our IELTS preparation? First of all, do quizzes. In my vocabulary course, you'll find lots of quizzes that encourage you to remember the words and phrases from the lesson. For example, in this quiz, you have to recall the word from the lesson to complete the sentence. In this quiz, you need to remember the word based on an image. These kinds of activities can help you to recall the word, which will make it easier to recall the word in the future. Practice the same questions again and again. Take some IELTS questions, answer in your own language, then look up any vocabulary you weren't sure about or that you needed, and then try to answer it in English. Then, the next day, ask yourself the same question again. This will help you to retrieve the vocabulary that you need to answer it. Probably the most important thing to do to improve your IELTS vocabulary is just to focus on improving your general English vocabulary. And the best way to do that? Well, get lots of exposure to English. Find content that you're personally interested in. So 100%, if you have a particular interest, then just start watching and reading about that topic in English. Watch series, movies, look for podcasts, and read articles in English. Good luck with all of your preparation, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye then.